Steve DeRocco, good morning. What is up? The Rock. The Rock. I still have time to pour coffee before the show starts. Thank God. Steve DeRocco, the weather is getting very San Antonio polar bear-esque. I'm just saying. See happening on my Facebook. Yeah, I think it is. Haas Holding, welcome in. Hector Gomez, welcome.
Yes, sir.
Haas, I got to check your social media, see when your next wrestling match is.
Yes, sir.
Don Holding, a.k.a. Haas Holding. He's been on the show a couple of times lately. Big professional wrestler. Great story.
No, that's so funny. There you go.
We're just a few seconds away. So I better guzzle some coffee. Steve DeRocco, I agree. It is time for a board meeting. It's been a while. It's been a long time. What, at least a month? Correct? I mean, we're at November 5th. Here we go.
Now, Chris Duel.
Glory, glory, hallelujah, and praise be to Thomas Wade Landry and all of the football gods on high. A football weekend is upon us on this Friday, November 5th. High school football, college football, pro football. Had a little bit of pro football yesterday. Chris Duel show with Shannon Salty Sweeney. And Shannon, yesterday, I was watching the NFL Network's pregame coverage of Colts versus Jets, and there was so much Mike White coverage. Oh, and I found out, had I known this, we would have talked about this to James Allen yesterday, Shannon. James Allen of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. They should Mike White's jersey and cleats from the 400-yard game he had last week for the Jets in his first ever start in the NFL are already in a acrylic case on display in Canton, Ohio, in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So you can't say Mike White, at least his stuff, has never been in the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
I did see that story. I can't imagine that is an exhibit that'll last forever. So get in while you can, especially considering he didn't last very long last night.
He got hurt. He got hurt. It was like 7, but see, there was so much hype. I was like, you know what? Because you and I talked about this game. It's like, meh, Colts, Jets, meh. And then I was watching the hype on the NFL Network like for an hour before the game. I'm like, hey, man, I'm in. This is like Rocky Balboa. This is like Kurt Warner. This is like a dude out of nowhere. This is Robert Redford in The Natural. I am into the whole Mike White thing. And he's 7 of 11. I think late first quarter was when he got knocked out of the game. It's like, no, come on. I was just buying into the hype and all excited.
Yeah. I mean, they had to, like us, they were searching for something to get on for this featured game on Thursday night between the Jets and the Colts. Just trying. What were they going for? They were striving for 4 and 5.
The Colts were.
Oh no, 2 and.
Yeah, well,
2 and 7.
Yes, I think Jets came in at 2 and 5, and I think the Colts came in at 3 and 5.
Okay, so yeah, real high stakes. Just shows you what kind of talent level you need to. I mean, anyone really has the chance to be the quarterback of the Jets. If you just complete a couple passes, you get yourself in the Hall of Fame.
Complete a couple. Dude threw for over 400 yards in his not his rookies in his 3rd or 4th year, but in his NFL starting debut. That was. Well, I'm not going to diminish that like you are. That was.
No one had any film
Nobody's
on
done that. Roger, Peyton Manning. Nobody's thrown for 400 plus yards in their first start ever in the NFL before this dude.
No one has film on him.
If he does nothing else, that's pretty good.
Well, it doesn't seem like he's going to do much else after an injury. They then play their 3rd stringer, and they've got Joe Flacco around that facility somewhere. I wouldn't be surprised if he starts popping up here next week.
Final score last night was Colts 45, Jets 30. So I think I'll pull the numbers up. Colts scoring 45. That sounds like if you have Carson Wentz on your fantasy team, 3 touchdowns for Carson Wentz last night, 272 yards. Jonathan Taylor. Shannon, I had Jonathan Taylor on my fantasy football team early in the year, and the league I'm in, you don't have a taxi squad. It's like you got 7 players. That's it. And quarterback, 2 running backs, 3 receivers, a tight end if you want it, and a kicker. So Jonathan Taylor early in the season was out with an injury, and I said, I can't keep him. I got to replace him. I want to win. And now he's had like something like 9 games in a row of at least 100 yards and at least 1 touchdown. Jonathan Taylor of the Indianapolis Colts last night, just a mere 172 yards on the ground and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Oh, he also caught 2 passes for 28 yards. Jonathan Taylor is a beast, and I'm an idiot because I cut him from my fantasy team.
Yeah, I don't even think he sniffed the potential draftees for my team. And you were asking, Carson Wentz would have gotten you just over 24 points last night in a PPR. Woo. Which doesn't seem like as much, but you mentioned Taylor running in 2 TDs, so Carson only threw for 1.
So good for Carson Wentz. I know you said yesterday you're still not down with him because of all those Dak comparisons earlier in the year, but
I just want to see more Sam Ehlinger.
Yeah, we saw some Sam Ehlinger last night.
Flash,
a goal line keeper for Sam Ehlinger.
Yeah, one play for 1 yard.
And did you see him run off the field he ran to the sideline with a big smile. He didn't get into the end zone, but he ran off the field smiling, high-fiving his teammates on the sidelines.
NFL regular season debut.
Is that right? Was that the first play?
Yeah. What's not to smile about?
I didn't realize that was his first play ever. That makes it even more special.
Remember, he was in preseason, and then he got injured, and he'd been out. And
So cool. We saw a little history last night. Sam, I mean, if he goes on to be the next Mike White,
that's the play we'll remember.
We'll look back and say, hey, man, we were there on Thursday. Other people weren't watching because the game, kind of
They need to cut out the yard of grass that he got his yard from. Put that in the Hall of Fame.
I like that a lot. Well, it is a football Friday, and we are all over, especially football today, and we should be. We'll talk some NBA and some Spurs. Spurs are in action tonight. They're at Orlando, taking on the Orlando Magic. We'll get into that a little bit, but let's be honest. It's all about the football, NFL football, Cowboys, Broncos on Sunday. We've got Texans against the Dolphins on Sunday, which could have been really weird if the Dolphins and the Texans did that Deshaun Watson trade, which they did not. Coming up just after 8:30, the voice of the Houston Texans, Marc Vandermeer, is going to join us. Coming up in less than an hour, one of our favorite go-to football guys. He's Mr. Football in my book. Coach A, Paul Alexander. We'll talk all things football with him. We'll talk about the Aaron Rodgers situation, the Odell Beckham Jr. situation. I was just listening, Shannon, to Brady Quinn on the national show before us, Two Pros and a Cup of Joe. Brady Quinn said he has heard from some sources that the Cleveland Browns will release Odell Beckham Jr. today, that we'll hear about that today, which, you know, that'll be good for the Browns. That'll be good for Odell Beckham Jr. I also heard this morning on another national show, Keyshawn Johnson saying 3 teams that might be interested in grabbing Odell Beckham Jr. would be the Chiefs, which would be crazy because they've got an embarrassment of riches. The Rams, because Sean McVay always looking to use new players, and they're not afraid of making big moves. We found that out this week when they went for Von Miller. We also, you know, they're just trying to load up for Bear and go to the Super Bowl. And if they want to spend some money and bring in some Odell Beckham Jr. to add to their receiving core for Matthew Stafford, they'll do it. But finally, the third possible landing spot, and it sounds like the most logical and the best for Odell Beckham Jr., that would be the Las Vegas Raiders. Of course, the horrible situation with Henry Ruggs III and that car crash, and he's now in jail and maybe headed to prison. They've got an opening with the Las Vegas Raiders for a deep threat, and that might be Odell Beckham Jr. before too long.
Yeah, I think those teams make sense for him. It was always weird seeing him in a Browns uniform. I guess because the kind of guy he is, and playing for New York, and the outspoken and the kind of the face of the team, but then also throwing all those temper tantrums, and him wanting to win so badly that he was going to do whatever it takes, and he makes these crazy, amazing catches and plays. And then for him to go to the Browns when they were kind of on their come up, but not a guaranteed come up, and then to see the situation kind of play out there, it makes sense to see him in LA or a Vegas, like you mentioned. And you know, they're also playing pretty well, both of those teams. So I think he'd be happy to land anywhere. It'll be interesting to see how the locker room reacts and how he reacts, because as it seems right now, if he's not getting the ball enough, he and his father will let you hear about it.
Well, speaking of locker room, I've also heard that Cleveland Browns locker room, the majority of those players would want to welcome Odell Beckham Jr. back into the Cleveland Browns locker room. That does not bode well for one Baker Mayfield. That suggests that Baker Mayfield does not have that locker room, and that locker room may be turning on Baker Mayfield, as the Cleveland Browns are not living up to their expectations, at least thus far this season. All right, lots more to talk about, but right now at 6:20, this is the first time we're going to do this today, but we do it all day, every weekday, all day, every day. In fact, the Grand in Your Hand cash contest on the 20s. So right now we're going to do it, but every hour you get a chance to get in the running for $1,000 all the way until 9:20 tonight. We're going to give you a keyword and where you text it, and it's coming at you right now.
Your chance to win $1,000. Text the nationwide keyword GRAND to 200-200. You'll get a confirmation text and info. Standard data and message rates apply in this nationwide contest. That's GRAND to 200-200.
GRAND is the number to 200-200. And Shannon, it is very grand to turn double digits age-wise. I'm looking on our live video feed. And by the way, if you're new to the show, We got a great live video feed on AM 1300 The Zone and Ticket 760's Facebook page. You can also get there via YouTube, also on Ticket 760 and AM 1300 The Zone's Twitter pages. Got a link as well. Good friend of the show, and he calls in with great phone calls now and then. Wes Perkins tweeting, "Happy birthday to my sweet Caroline, who is turning 10 today. We'll party hard tomorrow." So Caroline Perkins, a big happy birthday to you. 10 years old today.
10 years old. Happy birthday. That's a big one.
It is a big one.
That's
Double digits.
Do you remember what you received for your 10-year-old birthday?
Gosh, I don't remember specifically, but I do remember exactly what you said. I remember saying, "Oh, double digits. I'm getting pretty old." Yeah.
You feel like a real kid. I got like a room makeover. We painted my room, and I got new furniture.
Woo!
And I still have a lot of that furniture in my house today.
Now, anybody old like me will remember this. I do remember, and it might have been around my 10th birthday. When I was 9, Apollo 11 landed on the moon. That's how old I am. Get off my lawn. So all the kids in my elementary school were heavily into Apollo and the space program.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a toy called Major Matt Mason. It was a little astronaut, it was like a Gumby. It was about the size of a Gumby, and rubber, and you could move him around, and he was in a space uniform, and he came with accessories like a lunar rover and a space station.
Okay.
So
cool.
I also did get Gumby and Pokey. Now, Shannon, do you, when you were growing up, any Gumby? Do you know who Gumby is? You got to know Gumby, right? That's
the green guy.
Yeah, the green guy. He's Gumby. And also Eddie Murphy on Saturday Night Live did quite the Gumby, in the 80s. But Gumby and Pokey were big. But I do believe perhaps for my 10th birthday, it might have been Major Matt Mason.
And they're not dolls. They're action figures.
Exactly. I don't have dolls. That's a G.I. Joe, man. It's not a doll. But I will admit this, Shannon, and this is a little creepy, but my sister had Barbie, which was a doll.
Yeah.
And I had G.I. Joe, which was an action figure. That wasn't a doll. But I must admit, I did occasionally, and again, I was 10 or something. I would occasionally steal my sister's Barbie so that G.I. Joe could have a girlfriend.
Right.
So I had, G.I. Joe would go out and fight. And then after a long day of just fighting the enemies of America, G.I. Joe would need a little loving. Yeah. So I'd get Barbie to kind of hang out with G.I. Joe. You
know what made the action figures and not dolls is they're so much more advanced. They can move their knees and their elbows.
Ooh, see, none of that.
Barbies could not. They were super stiff.
Yeah, none of that in the 70s for G.I. Joe, Barbie, or Major Matt Mason. All right, that was a weird digression, but it happens on this show. We will not digress from football today, and I will tell you that. A little bit later, in fact, in the 8 o'clock hour, we bravely, courageously, fearlessly pick 3 college football games each and 3 NFL games each. We don't just pick winners. Anybody can. I was watching the NFL Network yesterday. Oh, yeah, I'm 6-1 on my pick. Shut up. We pick against the spread. You're just picking winners on the NFL Network. We do the heavy lifting here. Anyway, we're going to pick 3 college games and 3 NFL games in the 8 o'clock hour. As I mentioned, Marc Vandermeer, the voice of the Houston Texans after 8:30. The great Coach A, Paul Alexander, just after 7. Shannon's Salty Shakedown coming up after 7:30, along with sports history and sports birthdays. And coming up next, the high 5 play of the day. Lots coming at you. It is all about the football, as it should be on a football Friday. She is Shannon Salty Sweeney, the boss man, Brian Gann, making the show go this morning. We are with you till 9. Thanks for hanging out with us on the Chris Duel Show. Yeah, Tracy, G.I. Joe and Barbie. They had a thing going on. Beth Settle, good morning. See who else is here. Steve DeRocco, the original Rock. Haas Holding. Tracy Bogert, Anthony Del Toro. Wes Perkins, father of Caroline, having her 10th birthday. Taro Kotani, the greatest international Spurs fan, joining us from Tokyo, Japan. Taro, we hope you're going to make it this season to see the Spurs. Beth Settle up very early in the first segment this morning. Good morning, Beth. Anthony Del Toro, who, when the city of San Antonio gets its NFL football team and calls them the Toros, Anthony Del Toro will legally change his name to Anthony Del Toros. And we'll talk about that on the radio when it happens, Anthony, without a doubt. Luisa Alanis, welcome in. Tracy Bogert, a.k.a. Pendejo, says, I have to go punch in at 6:30 instead of 7 now. That's rough. We punch in here about 5 in the morning or earlier when we got to do some recordings of some kind. We get in here earlier. And then the show starts at 6, as you know. Yeah, Eddie Murphy. I'm Gumby, damn it. It's a brilliant Gumby. All right, I got to look up a couple of things here for sports history and sports birthdays. Let's see. Marc Wilson, 571 yards. So I go to a site. There's a few sites out there, but I've got one that's okay. Come on. I go to a few sites that give you sports history and sports birthdays, but one of them today says, on this day in 1977, Marc Wilson of Brigham Young set the NCAA passing record with 571 yards. Doesn't say who BYU was playing. Doesn't say who they were playing or what the final score was. All right, it was against Utah. So then I have to go do this extra research. It just seems like a basic thing if you were going to cite when a guy got 571 yards, you would think that you would tell me who they played and what the score was. But no. Okay, they beat Utah 38-8. That's all I'm asking. Now, who has the NCAA record for passing yards now? No, that's fallen. Passing yards in a game, here it comes. Get out. 716. David Klingler. My God. That is crazy.
is perfect. I mean, it's fine. But I noticed that Taylor, I need to talk to him. I think he thinks it's like you register and like sometime today we'll give it away. Well, every hour there's a winner.
Okay.
So in other words, if they text in now and they don't win this hour, they can text the next hour because every hour there's going to be $1,000.
So somebody is winning $1,000 every single hour. Okay, great. That helps me.
It's not like register today. Any hour you can register.
Okay.
It's like the more every hour you do it,
You're in. Your name's in the hat every hour if you do it.
draw at the end of the hour.
And is it weekday only or is it all week? Okay. Okay.
And again, what you've been doing is fine, but the harder sell might be that, hey, you know, if you don't win this hour, we'll have another one next hour.
That's good.
Keep doing it, you know.
Okay, that helps.
And it makes it sound like we're not like just doing 16 giveaways for 1,000.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, that's I want to throw that in because I didn't know for sure. There's a winner every hour. Somebody's walking away with $1,000. That's great.
And I didn't miss an email, did I? She doesn't have any audio for high five.
Let me double check. I don't think so. Yeah, no, there isn't. Pre-game 5:30. It's an early 6 o'clock start in Orlando.
Yeah, we were able to keep Bill at AT&T.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, but he's going to do it, I think, he's going to do it in the truck or somewhere near there. Or, you know, in their area.
Okay.
Because there's something else going on at AT&T tonight.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, that'll be better for him, especially with, you know, all of their facilities with the live feed there.
Well, the biggest issue for us was we were trying to tie the audio timing to what he sees visually.
Oh, yeah. I didn't think about that. That would be difficult.
And if our original plan was just to pump the audio directly from there through the same connection that we normally have from him to here, and then him being here. But the concern was that our cable feed might be off a little bit.
That's true. Yeah. Here we come.
Sweeney.
And welcome back on a Football Friday. Happy football weekend to you. The football weekend started last night with high school football across the great state of Texas, from sea to shining sea across America. And of course, last night we did have Thursday night football. On the surface, not an exciting game, but hey, it was NFL football. And we did have the Mike White intrigue for a while that I got all caught up in by watching an hour of pregame on the NFL Network. Mike White, the guy who led the New York Jets the previous week and threw for over 400 yards in his first start, who started off as a Dallas Cowboy fighting for that Cowboys backup job with Cooper Rush and lost out. But Mike White gets knocked out of that game last night. As Shannon mentioned, Sam Ehlinger gets in for a play at the goal line, near the goal line, carries the ball from the quarterback position on a designed run for 1 yard. Didn't get into the end zone. It was his first and thus far only play in the National Football League in the regular season. That was exciting, at least for us. Colts beat the Jets 45-30 last night. And Shannon, with all of this football this weekend, we made the poll question about, and again, if one of these four choices is not your choice, like if you're really excited about Chiefs Packers, then we'll tweet us that and we'll pass that along. But we gave 4 choices. Which weekend football game are we looking forward to the most?
Currently, 36% of the vote is going to Broncos at Cowboys, 0% for Texans at Dolphins.
Come on!
16% for Texas at Iowa State, and 48% UTSA at UTEP.
48?
48%, yeah.
That's out polling the Dallas Cowboys. I thought
as of right now,
I would think it'll be interesting as the morning progresses, because as much as there's a lot of UTSA hype, and justifiably so, at 8-0 and a quest to go 12-0 and then win a bowl game and go 13-0, it would be a story that would be talked about forever. Still, the Cowboys are the Cowboys.
Where are you in this poll?
Again, as much as I am excited about UTSA versus UTEP, and as much as I'm excited about the Longhorns going at Iowa State and hopefully riding this ship, and hopefully all of the weirdness of the last 3 games will be over and the next progression of the Steve Sarkisian era will begin, I'm excited about that. I am excited because we talk with Marc Vandermeer, the voice of the Texans, and we will today just after 8:30. Texans at Dolphins. I'm gonna watch. I'm gonna pay attention. But I'm a Cowboys fan. It's the Cowboys, and it's the Cowboys trying to, once again this weekend, Shannon. If the Cowboys can beat the Broncos, and they should, they're favored. We'll see what happens to the Cardinals. We'll see without Aaron Rodgers if the Packers lose. We'll see what happens to the Bucks. I mean, it's another opportunity for the Cowboys to further solidify their case and their quest to have the best record in the NFC and therefore a first-round bye.
I've got to say, I've got to go with the Texas Iowa State game for our poll today, just because I'm an equal fandom of the Cowboys and the Longhorns. But I went to Texas. I was raised on Texas. My name is forever associated with Texas. My name is on the ground of the Alumni Center.
Woo!
Therefore, they are a representation of me more than the Cowboys ever will have the chance to be. And therefore, I feel it just a little bit more deeply and a little bit more personally when we win or lose.
Okay, so I got to ask you this, and you make a great case, and your name is on the ground of the Alumni Center, and burnt orange is in your blood. If we did a blood draw, Shannon's blood would be burnt orange.
Yeah.
All right, let's say Texas had an off season. Let's say they're 2-5. And they're playing who's a really crappy team.
Are we not considering this an off season already?
No, I'm not. I think they're going to turn it around. I'm but let's who's like the most
Kansas.
Okay, it's Texas versus Kansas, and then it's the Cowboys versus Brady and the Bucks in a late season showdown for the best record in the NFC. Are you still going to say, "Hey man, I'm sorry, I love my Cowboys, but I'm all about Texas"? I'm more excited about Texas versus Kansas than the battle for the best record in the NFC between the Bucks and the Cowboys.
You said this was late in the season?
It's late in the
which is typically
this would be like November.
Texas has seemingly ended their season usually with a Kansas. I'd probably go Cowboys in that one just out of excitement.
Good. I just want to see if you could be moved.
Like you never know because Kansas can surprise you from sometimes, as some teams have found out, and almost Oklahoma getting shocked this year. So I'm never not excited for Texas athletics. And shout out real quick to Texas soccer making it to the championship round of the Big 12 tournament after defeating West Virginia yesterday. That's pretty awesome. We're a soccer school, in case y'all didn't know that. University of Texas, big on soccer.
Woo! All right, well, we'll get into some soccer talk someday. Someday. All right, I'll tell you what we're going to get into now. It's the high five play of the day. We do this every morning at this time. We love giving out the high fives because there's always somebody or some people or a group or a team deserving of high fives. The high five play of the day, appropriately sponsored by High Five, 2 locations in the Austin area. If you're a sports fan, if you love food, if you love drink, if you love playing games, my goodness, this is your mecca. Big screen TVs everywhere, great food, great drinks, food specials, drink specials, great games, laser tag, bowling, axe throwing, all kinds of other great games you can play. Shannon, who gets the high five this morning?
Yeah, well, Chris, you found this one and dug it up out of Glenview, Illinois, of about a young person's Friday Night Lights League. It is a flag football league for the youth, and there is a team filled with 11 members, and it's all girls. They're the first of their kind. They play against boys week in and week out, and they're on the verge of their first ever win, making history one play at a time. And what's really fantastic about the story is not just that they're this team and they are sticking with the boys week in and week out, but because of what they're doing and because they're the first team, they have garnered so much interest from other girls who are not yet playing that there is a waiting list for next year's league.
Whoa.
Kids are already signing up that they think they're going to be able to fill out another all-girls team, which is just fantastic. I mean, maybe you can even have an all-girls league at some point should more and more girls get involved. I love it. It's flag football. It's meant for everybody. It's a fun game. I played it on multiple intramural teams during college, both co-ed and all girls. I just think it's a fun game. It's great exercise, and it gets the girls involved in football. I mean, we're, I think, still very far away from a female putting on the pads and being a part of an NFL roster. And I think when we first see it, it'll be a kicker. But this is a great way to get them involved in the game, right? Because it's fun to watch games and talk about games and know what you're talking about and not being the cliche girl who's like, when did they get a basket? Like, that's not funny anymore. Let's be a little bit educated. And I love, so kudos to these girls for playing, and then for the parents for getting them into the league and then supporting their kids in playing flag football. I think it's awesome.
And it's just such a cool story. An all-girls flag football team playing against the rest of the league is all boys.
Yeah.
And I mean, whenever they get that first win, I mean, that could be a 30 for 30. That's so cool. Well, I just love it.
And like I said, they're 11. They're fifth graders. And I don't know, we were talking about Caroline's 10th birthday today. That age, girls, they start to get, like in fifth grade, I was kind of tall compared to a lot of the boys, right? I'd started to hit my growth spurt a little bit. That didn't last long. As I got out of middle school, I was then short again. But I can imagine some of those girls may have a good foot or two over some of those boys when they're playing, and I'd love to see the images of that. We do have a picture of the team, and there are some girls that are even much taller than their teammates already. So I just love the image of that. And again, they're kids. Let them play the game.
Yeah. Yeah. And you talked about playing intramural flag football in college. My team at USC we were the Lovetron Express because Daryl Dawkins was a big, and they called him Chocolate Thunder. He played for the Philadelphia 76ers, and people used to say, Daryl, where are you from? And he said, I'm not from here. I'm from the planet Lovetron, which we all just thought that was hilarious. I'm not from here. I'm from Lovetron. So we were the Lovetron Express. We were pretty good. I think we went to the finals and then lost. But yeah, flag football is so much fun. And it's much fun because boys and girls / men and women can play.
Yeah.
And, you've got softball leagues that are co-ed. I think there should be more flag football out there because it is such a fun game.
One of the co-ed team I played on, they needed bodies, and I already had a friend on the team, but they were all made up of the higher end intramural refs. So when we would play, we'd have the lower end refs, like the newbie refs. And I think as good as that team was and as good as we were, I don't think we made the finals, but we didn't win, which is a bummer because you want to win an intramural finals at Texas because then you get your picture on the Wall of Fame, which includes Matthew McConaughey because he had an intramural team once upon a time win. But they spent a lot of time arguing calls, which happens when you have ref on ref crime.
Yeah.
So I don't suggest that necessarily. It's the path I took, but not a path that I would suggest to others.
And even at that level, Shannon, and even though you had experienced refs on your intramural flag football team, you never win, do you? Did your experienced refs ever win an argument with an actual ref? Oh, you're right. That wasn't interference. Okay, let me rescind that flag.
I think there were some times when things were overturned.
Wow.
Because they were kind of the bosses of these other refs.
Oh, I didn't know there was that hierarchy going on.
But not like that shouldn't have been overturned. I mean, they were like blatant things that were missed. We need
All right.
replay in flag football. We need to step it up at the
more
intramurals.
and more now. I mean, we now, if intramural leagues wanted the technology, and you just gave me some information I did not know either, that when he was at the University of Texas, Matthew McConaughey was on a championship intramural flag football team. Is that correct?
I'm not sure if it was flag football. I just know that there's a wall of when your team wins, they take a picture.
Okay.
And you go on the wall. I'm not sure.
So it could have been hoops.
It could have been hoops. It could have been indoor soccer. It could have been outdoor soccer. It could have been one of the numerous things going on there. I'm sure I can look it up during a break.
That would be. I mean, that would be a fun, just out of curiosity, because he is the unofficial mascot and face of the University of Texas and athletics. So yeah, to see what kind of sport he had an aptitude in back when he was at Texas would be kind of interesting. Very cool. All right. NFL, one of the things we'll talk about a little bit later as we get ready for the NFL weekend, and we'll dive headlong into NFL talk with Coach A, Paul Alexander, just after the top of the hour. And what a week for things off the field. Aaron Rodgers testing positive for COVID, and now all of the firestorm around his seeming to be deceitful about whether or not he was vaccinated. The horrible Henry Ruggs III automobile accident where he was impaired, drunk, driving 156 miles an hour, rear-ended another vehicle, killed a woman. She had a dog in the vehicle with her as well. You have that story. You got Odell Beckham Jr.'s father with the video. Now he's just not even invited to play for the Cleveland Browns. He's expected to be released today. Just so much going on. And Shannon, we'll talk with Marc Vandermeer, the voice of the Houston Texans, about this. Could be a quarterback change in Miami against the Dolphins for the Texans this weekend.
Yeah, Tyrod Taylor seems to be healthy, and looks like he'll get the start this weekend, which I think will be good for the Texans. And I think coming back against Miami will be a good way to kind of ease back into things. And then also interested to talk to Marc about Charles Omenihu, who, I mean, Texas fans love when they see players get drafted to Texas teams because of the way television works in the NFL. That means you typically get to watch both the Texans and the Cowboys each week, and therefore you get to continue to watch those players develop. And him being a Texas guy was exciting for him to be with the Texans, and I think he contributed. I mean, Marc spoke very highly of him at the beginning of the season. And so I'm sad that he's moved on now to the 49ers following the trade deadline, but I think it'll be a good spot for him. But interested to know what the Texans were thinking of getting rid of a guy who is on the come up when it comes to the defensive side of the ball.
And that seems to be what the Texans now do. It's like, oh, you're good. Oh, you've got to go. No,
you've got value.
You're good. Oh, I'm so sorry. You're so good. Okay, goodbye. Bye-bye. But Mike, I just hope, Shannon, there's a master plan there for the Texans. And it sure sounds like the master plan is tank. But a year ago, and I had the T-shirt, and I still have the T-shirt, tank for Trevor.
Right.
A year ago, if you were tanking, we knew who you were tanking for.
What are we doing?
Who's, and we thought at the beginning of this, Spencer Rattler. That's who they're going to get, Spencer Rattler. Now, my gosh, I don't know. I don't know what the Texans' long-term master plan is, and I want them back. I mean, for the longest time, the Texans were good, and they were always seemingly in the playoffs, and you had J.J. Watt and Deshaun Watson, and now it's just ugly. It's just ugly. And my dream, Shannon, the all-Texas Super Bowl now looks further away than ever.
Keep dreaming, sir.
Yeah.
Dreaming.
Oh, I do see you have discovered to answer the question, Matthew McConaughey. What did he play? If you're listening right now, in your mind, think about Matthew McConaughey. Was it football? We know he loves Longhorn football, intramural at Texas. Was it basketball? Was it hoops? Was it soccer? Apparently, Shannon, it was none of those.
No, it was golf.
Golf.
Which I don't know if we had intramural golf when I was there.
All right.
I wonder if that's something that you could just show up and play, or if you had to have your own clubs.
And I wonder if he was baked while he was golfing.
That might have been, because compared to other things, it's a little easier, I think, to do those extracurriculars while doing that extracurricular.
Yes, because we know that people enjoy often adult beverages while golfing. So
Correct.
you can imbibe of mind-altering substances and still play the game.
Yeah.
Be a little tougher during basketball or something, or soccer or something more intense. So, wow. See, I learned that this morning, Shannon. I learned a little more about, and he's one of my faves, Matthew McConaughey, who someday could be the governor of Texas.
Yeah, little trivia. And like I said, kids who play intramurals at Texas, they don't really care about winning the championship. They care that their picture will be on the Wall of Fame alongside Matthew McConaughey.
There's something to be said for walls of fame. Also, something we'll get into, and we'll talk a lot of football, and we always talk Cowboys with Coach A, Paul Alexander. But reading the tea leaves and just listening to people out of the Dallas Cowboys camp and the Star Complex in Frisco, it's looking more and more like we won't have a Cooper Rush reprise at quarterback for the Cowboys this weekend against the Broncos.
Praise be.
Praise be. Dak
Praise
Prescott.
Be. And a Von Miller-less Broncos.
Dak is back.
Cowboys by 20.
Whoa. We'll see if Shannon makes that pick
Cowboys by 20.
coming up on our football picks. Coming up, all things football, Aaron Rodgers, Henry Ruggs, Odell Beckham Jr., and the Cowboys, and the Roadrunners, and the Longhorns. We'll talk about it all with Coach A, Paul Alexander. Next, she's Shannon Salty Sweeney. We're with you till 9 on the Chris Duel Show. Leo Zambrana says, go Miners. Leo, if you don't have a connection to UTEP, if you're just being contrary when there's all this UTSA love out there, come on, man. Foamfoot 420, where have you been? We've been talking about you. Let's see. Armando Salinas, happy birthday next week. Armando, remind us next week. And especially if it's a weekday, of course, we will give you a shout out because that's what we do. I'm going to grab some ice, baby. Okay. All right, Leo, you are permitted. Leo graduated from UTEP in 1993. Foamfoot 420, if you were here, at 6:30, you'd know what the rumor was. All right. No, we weren't talking about you. I'm kidding. I mean, we should have been, but we weren't. All right. Heating up the coffee, and I'll be back. Hey, who should I get you some Mike Taylor for your viewing pleasure? I'll be back. Thank you, Mike Taylor. Yeah, Jason, Shannon had mentioned we were talking about playing intramurals in college, and Shannon had mentioned that I'm trying to come up with a picture of Paul Alexander for the live video feed by the time we grab him here, that she had seen the photo of Matthew McConaughey on the Intramural Hall of Fame. So I was curious, what did he play? And it turned out to be golf. Okay, let's see. I need this. Whoops, there it is. Carl Fisher says, birds up, everyone. I second that emotion. Okay, now I need to do that. And I need this. I'm not good at it yet, but I'm working on it. We did it a little bit yesterday. When we have a guest, I'm trying more and more to, when they're on the phone, put up a photo of that guest. So I'm doing that, or I'm trying to do that right now with Paul Alexander. And let's see if this works. Okay, now I need to send that. All right. So there it is now. When Paul talks to us, see, in yesterday's photos were too wide. So now, ideally, we'll have Paul in the middle there, and then I'll be on this side, and we'll have Shannon on the other side. ideally. We'll make it work somehow. So yesterday, so see how this one is thinner than yesterday's photos? We had James Allen, which makes the sides more narrow. Bill Schoning's was even wider than that. So I'm working on it. We had Andy Everett yesterday. So I'm learning that needs to be thinner from width-wise. So now it is. Okay. So there's that. Woo! Woo! Oh. Thank you very much. All right. Thank you, Luis. So we're working on, making this more seamless and user and viewer friendly. So hopefully we'll do that. Lucinda Sullivan, good morning. With 3 coffee emojis. I've just got 1 coffee, but I also have an iced tea. So I almost have 3 caffeine delivery systems. John Hunsnerscher, let's go them Spurs. Yes, John, stick with the Spurs because they're good and they're getting better all the time, which is a great Beatles tune. And the greatest illustration of the Lennon-McCartney songwriting partnership. Paul sang, it's getting better all the time. And John added in the chorus, it can't get no worse. Love John Lennon. Love the Beatles. My God.
Today, try to run, try to hide, break on to the other side.
Now, Chris Duel.
Yes, the football weekend is upon us. Glory be to the football gods on high. And they would include one Thomas Wade Landry, one Texas E. Schramm, one George Hallis, and all other football gods who showered down blessings upon us. The football weekend is here, and the football weekend is here. You get some indicators early in the weekend on a Thursday. You get some high school football across the great state of Texas. On a Thursday night, you get NFL Thursday night football. And on a Friday morning, your best indicator that the football weekend is here is that Shannon, Salty, Sweeney, and I talk football with one Coach A, Paul Alexander, longtime television, radio personality, anchor, executive, now the main provocateur and philosopher and entertainer with a tremendous website, radicallyrational.com. Paul Alexander, happy Football Friday. How are you this morning?
Shannon, good morning. I am great with the exception of the fact that it's the final Friday of the high school football regular season. So I know there's still plenty of football to be played, but that day always kind of gives me the willies a little bit.
And let's jump into high school football for a second here, Paul. You love all levels of football, but you have also been doing some high school football play-by-play this football season. How has that gone, and anything jump out at you as remarkable that you weren't expecting to call or to see on the gridiron this fall?
It's just so much fun, and I'm so grateful for the opportunity. I love helping other people love football. So if I can contribute to somebody's enjoyment of the game or that experience, it's just a wonderful thing, and I'm just so fortunate to have a chance to do those things. And it is interesting to kind of follow it from a stylistic standpoint. You just don't see a lot of teams now in a two-back offense, and you don't see a lot of really, really up-the-gut running games right now. They're using the pass to set up the run. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not a complaint at all. It's just an observation. But the style of play really is changing. The level of wide receiver play has been elevated so much over the last few years, and now what we're seeing is great athletes being assigned to play starting cornerback, and they're playing a lot of man coverage, and the quality there has really improved. Some of the matchups that I've seen between really good receivers and really good corners has been thrilling. It's been great.
Coach, with this being the last Friday of the regular season for high schools around the country, what do you say to those kids who are putting on that jersey to play what will likely be their final game? Because we know what small percentage go on to play at the next level, whether it even be junior college or D1, and then that smaller percentage that does make it to the NFL.
I can get pretty emotional about this, and I consider myself fortunate as a high school player is that I never went into a game knowing or even thinking it was going to be my last game, because we were fortunate enough to be district champions and be in the playoffs. So when it ended, it was a sudden stop and an unexpected stop. And I'm really glad that I didn't have to deal with that throughout the week. One of the most interesting stories I've ever had the pleasure of doing, and a wonderful friend of mine with whom I used to work at KSAT, Larry Burns, shot this story. But we got this idea, and this would have been back in the late 80s sometime, that we wanted to find a pretty good high school football player who was playing on a team that was not going to make the playoffs. This kid, while a good football player, was not going to play college football, and he's known all week long, this is it. So Marshall Fleener was the coach of the team there, and we asked if we could identify a player like that, and he found us a young man that was just wonderful, great student, knocked the top out of the SAT, National Honor Society, great guy. And what we did, we set up, and we were at his home when he woke up that Friday morning.
Wow.
Microphone on him, and we tracked him all day long through his classes, through his friendships, through his conversations. We had a mic on him during the game. It was an incredible thing because his team was down 14 points in the fourth quarter and came back and won. And we titled the story, Once More Forever. It was the biggest privilege. It was the best story I ever had a chance to be associated with.
My goodness, Paul, I never heard that from you before. And as you're telling us that and showing up at his house when he woke up on game day morning, we live in an era now of 24/7 sports coverage, television, radio, and internet. And that story is so innovative to cover a young man like that all day long from the moment he woke up through the end of the football game and beyond. That's just so innovative. You're giving me goosebumps just thinking about it. And I just love the story. All right, Paul, let's dive into some of the big stories of the, go ahead.
I can't guarantee it with 100% certainty, but I think if you go on YouTube and punch in Once More Forever, and that story may be up there for you to see.
Oh, man, I am writing down Once More Forever. Okay, I'm going to go look for that. I hope that's up there. God, I love YouTube. We find so many jewels and treasures on YouTube. Once More Forever on YouTube. We're hoping it's there. All right, Paul, I don't know where to start, but I will start. You got Aaron Rodgers, you got Henry Ruggs III, you got Odell Beckham Jr., huge stories in the NFL this week off the field. Let's start with Aaron Rodgers because he's probably the biggest marquee name to make news off the field. He tests positive for COVID. A video surfaces of a press conference at the beginning of the season where a reporter asked him, "Have you been vaccinated?" And he goes, "Yeah, I'm immunized." And apparently the Packers and the NFL and everybody just looks the other way while he's able to operate versus NFL protocols and just live his life the way he wants to live his life. As a man who daily delivers us opinion at radicallyrational.com, got to get your take on the Aaron Rodgers situation.
Yeah, I addressed it on my blog this morning, and the question I asked was, wasn't Halloween last weekend? Ugly stuff going on right now, and this would be the ugliest in a lot of ways, in my estimation. I don't think we realize yet how significant this is and how significant it's going to be. Aaron Rodgers lied, period. And the Packers have been complicit in that lie and have done everything they can to accommodate that lie. It is a series of blatant, egregious violations of the league's COVID policy and COVID protocols. This is a big deal, and it's going to get bigger and bigger to the point where I hope that the 2021 season is remembered for something other than this. Okay, this could become kind of a landmark event right now. Don't know what it's going to do to the Packers season. I know that if I were any of the other 31 teams in the National Football League, I would be, no kidding, ticked off about this. This is a big deal.
So considering that, and I agree with you, it is a really big deal. And, you know, we're almost halfway through the season now. So it's kind of interesting that it's taken this long. You kind of think what would have happened had he never contracted COVID. And then we find out that he was not vaccinated throughout the entire football season. Do you think there should be a punishment? And if there is, does that go more to Rodgers or to the team for kind of hiding all of this and kind of letting him do whatever he wanted?
Well, first of all, the Jolly Roger is going to be genuinely unamused. And it's the fact that the Packers are not just complicit. They weren't just aware of it. They were actively going along with it. There could be some suspensions. There are going to be enormous fines. Aaron Rodgers could be suspended. I'm not kidding. Okay, so Tom Brady gets however many games he got for taking some air out of a football. They're going to sit Aaron Rodgers down at some point.
Wow. And I mean, Paul, you think about it, the stakes here being life or death, you know, and Aaron Rodgers, by feigning that he had been vaccinated, by misleading people, and then acting out, not wearing a mask, not following NFL protocols, just, you know, lollygagging wherever he wanted to without a mask, you know, and those other players could have family members at home who are immunocompromised or in high-risk groups. You make a huge point in comparing it to something like Deflategate. I mean, what Aaron Rodgers did is absolutely egregious. And again, I don't think it's too much hyperbole to stretch this to say it was potentially life-threatening to other people.
It absolutely is. And I know you guys have done this, but there's a kind of a nice chart, a nice card that you can find online. And it shows you the different protocols for players who are vaccinated versus players who are unvaccinated. And I don't care how he tries to parse the words, Aaron Rodgers is unvaccinated. He knew it. Everybody knew it. The Packers knew it. And he didn't just violate some of these protocols. He violated every single one of them every single day.
Well, as a Cowboys fan, it's not the worst news to find out that Aaron Rodgers is going to be out for at least one game, and that game just so happens to be against the Kansas City Chiefs. We talked yesterday about how much that line swung. I mean, it's now in favor of the Chiefs, 7.5 points, when previously the Packers were favored. Now that we've got Jordan Love stepping up, how do you see his career maybe taking shape with this performance? And do you think he can get it done over kind of a Kansas City Chiefs team that's not the team we once knew?
Well, this is a big deal for Jordan Love. I mean, he did not expect to be placed in this particular situation. And his opportunity to prove his worth of being a first-round draft choice and being kind of the heir apparent to Aaron Rodgers He didn't expect that first test to come in this environment. Now, I understand why the line is swung. I get it. Do I think the Packers can still win the game? Yeah, I do, because it always helps when you're playing a team with a god-awful defense. And let's call the Chiefs defense what it is. It's not subpar. That is a bad defense, and right now they're a bad football team.
Yeah, and as Cowboys fans, we know about bad defenses because we saw one all year last year for the Dallas Cowboys. Paul, I'm sorry to bring up this topic because it's so tragic and it's so awful, but I think it's one of those moments where something that happens in the world of sports is a life lesson to the rest of us. Henry Ruggs III, wide receiver of the Las Vegas Raiders. I think a number 12 pick overall, first-round draft pick. So much talent, such a future. The story this week, he's impaired. He's apparently drunk with his girlfriend in a vehicle driving at what was calculated to be 156 miles per hour at 3:39 in the morning. Plows into the rear end of another vehicle. A 23-year-old woman is driving. She's got her dog in the vehicle. That vehicle he plows into explodes into flames. The poor 23-year-old woman loses her life. It was just horribly tragic on so many levels. But I just wanted, Paul, because I know, we appreciate your perspective, just your thoughts on this horribly senseless loss of life and what is probably now a horribly senseless loss of a promising football career.
I wanted to throw up, and you just can't just write this off to a bad decision, okay? And we are all going to make mistakes in life. More on that in just a moment. It's just not sufficient to refer to this to just a lapse in judgment. I mean, there's so many things here. There's 3:40 in the morning. There's 156 miles per hour. There's twice the legal limit. There's a loaded gun in the car. You cannot in any way rationalize or excuse this. But on the other hand, if I do express some remorse and some deep sadness for what this has done to any number of families, including that of Henry Ruggs III. And again, am I excusing this in any way? No. Am I offering sympathy in any way? No, but I am remorseful for the impact on his life as well. And we've seen the reaction from his Raiders teammates. I don't know Henry Ruggs. I've talked to some people who do know him. He really had a wonderful reputation on that team. He was a beloved teammate. And there's just so much excruciating pain here, but you can't leave that piece out of the pain puzzle. And yeah, I am sad about that, but a horrible story. And if you don't mind me doing this, I don't want to give too much away right now because I don't know what I should disclose. But we shot a podcast yesterday with somebody you know, and it's all about being eligible to be comeback player of the year. And when you think about that, there's some ambivalence. Who wouldn't want to be player of the year? But when you start talking about comeback player, whoa, comeback from what? So the podcast we did yesterday was all about dealing with adversity and not letting a mistake ruin your life and really, really trying to take ownership of that. You got to forgive yourself, but self-forgiveness requires ownership and education. So I realize that's kind of a cryptic tease, but it's one of the more compelling podcasts we've ever done, and that will drop Monday morning.
Well, and a great tease it is, Coach. And we're going to pause real quick. It's time for our 7 o'clock hour keyword, your shot at $1,000. Here it is.
Your chance to win $1,000. Text the nationwide keyword green to 200-200. You'll get a confirmation text and info. Standard data and message rates apply in this nationwide contest. That's green to 200-200.
Yes, text green to 200-200, your 7 o'clock hour keyword. We will be having keywords throughout the rest of the day on both stations, again, for your shot at $1,000. Coach A, keeping it with wide receivers, we're hearing that Odell Beckham Jr., most likely to get released from the Browns today. Another receiver coming off of waivers is one Deshaun Jackson. He obviously a vet in the league, has kind of traveled throughout the last couple of years, but I think still worthy of a spot on a roster. Do you see either of these guys ending up on a team anytime soon? And which teams do you think would be the best fit for these two very different types of players?
Odell Beckham Jr. You're letting your daddy, Odell Beckham Sr., OBS, he's doing your dirty work. Do you want him to now wipe your nose? This is absolutely ridiculous. This is so offensive. This is the NFL. This is not Pop Warner. Does this mean we can't all go get snow cones after the game? Does this mean we're not going to Dave and Buster's? Were I any team in the National Football League, I don't want anything to do with that.
All right, Paul, before we run out of time, we cannot talk with you and not talk Dallas Cowboys. High noon on Sunday on Fox. The 6-1 Cowboys host the 4-4 Denver Broncos. As Shannon mentioned, Green Bay now going without Aaron Rodgers at the Chiefs. They could get their second loss, and we are expecting Dak Prescott back for the Cowboys noon on Sunday. Is there any reason for us to have appropriate fear of the Denver Broncos? Cowboys are 10-point favorites, double digits. What is your confidence level going into this game?
Pretty high. Dallas going to win the football game. They got it going on right now. And, they've gone through this little bit of adversity, a speed bump, and if anything, they came out stronger for it. I remember a week ago, we were all talking, well, oh, my God, I was trying to lead the parade on whatever you do, make sure that Cooper Rush is throwing off a 1 or 3-step drop. Don't let him take a deep drop and hold the ball and throw the ball downfield, please. And he throws for over 400 yards. And, one thing you got to say about Cooper Rush, and we saw what we saw in the preseason, and we had understandable trepidation. He has not just an okay delivery. He has a beautiful delivery. His throwing mechanics are damn near perfect. And for the team to be able to do that with him, I mean, what that does with his confidence level, and looking forward to the game against the Broncos offense is just not very good. I just don't see much of a chance of Dallas losing this game.
All right, well, a quick follow-up question. And again, you have been a great analyst of quarterbacks throughout the years as I've known you. Now that you see that Cooper Rush's mechanics are damn near perfect, I mean, should we be happy as Cowboys fans, not only this season, but next season moving forward? Is he now the Cowboys' backup quarterback for the next several years?
Could be fool's gold. He's got a beautiful delivery. His mechanics are beautiful, but we saw in the preseason, we saw him make a series of just horrendous decisions. And playing quarterback more than anything else is about good decision making. And anybody can have an off day and throw for 400 yards if that proves to be your off day. So I would still take a real deep analytical look at that, and I would still be at least attempting to create some competition for that backup quarterback position.
There is a lot more Paul Alexander waiting for you at the website radicallyrational.com. He updates that website daily with not only great sports takes, but great cultural, great political, great philosophical takes, a lot of them with just tremendous entertainment value as well. And as he mentions, a major podcast with someone we know about coming back from adversity in sports, going to drop on Monday. That's radicallyrational.com for a lot more of the mind of Paul Alexander. Paul, always great stuff, sir. Thanks for joining us. Have a fantastic football weekend.
Happy weekend at Horns. Please don't lose 4 in a row.
We are certainly with you on that. Do not. And we will there'll be a lot of angst on Monday and all next week if that happens. I got a feeling. I don't know, man. Shannon, it is Iowa State, and their quarterback is real Purdy at Iowa State.
It is a night game, too.
All right. Yeah, we'll see. Lots more coming up, including Shannon's Salty Shakedown, this day in sports history, sports birthdays, and more. 8 o'clock hour. We're going on the record. We're each going to make 3 college football picks against the spread. 3 NFL locks against the spread. Marc Vandermeer, the voice of the Houston Texans, just after 8:30. Lots of show coming at you between now and 9 o'clock. Brian Gann, the boss man, doing the heavy lifting, making the show go this morning. We are with you till 9 on the Chris Duel Show. I'll be back. I got to lock down my football picks here. I got to send Shannon a little note. She's had one at this point, which, yeah. Okay. Because, yeah, I even said, you know, before. All right. Okay, let's see here. Let me check the comments. 46 degrees in San Antonio. Louisa, I don't love it. John Williams, 39 in Dallas. Jason says the Raiders need a wide receiver. Just saying. Yeah. It should be Odell Beckham Jr. That both sides should try to make that happen. Thank you, Foamfoot 420. She enjoyed the Paul Alexander interview. Paul is just radio gold. I love Paul Alexander and his. Jason says Coach A is the best. I agree with that. Okay. Let me see here. I got to pick the UTSA game just because our picks are coming up just after 8, and I got to lock in my picks. Okay, why didn't that go to Conference USA? There it is. See, UTSA is an 11-point favorite on the road. All right. Then I got to pick Texas. Iowa State is a 6.5-point favorite. I'm going to pick one other game. I think the Aggies are in a big game. Oh, yeah, it's the Aggies against Auburn. I'll pick that one. That is at A&M, and A&M is a 4.5-point favorite. Identical records. 6-2 each. Auburn's number 13. Texas is number 14. All right. So those are the three I'm going to pick there. One more thing I got to check. Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate your help on that.
I think that'd be a good experience for her if you could make that happen.
Absolutely. I agree. Yeah, I didn't even know that was an option. So that's great. Johnny Damon.
Sadly, they don't always know the answer.
Okay. Yeah, gosh, you would think so. But I guess if it were a different era and things were going differently. But I think this team is so exciting, even though the record is a little frightening right now. I just think yeah. And I think they're ahead of schedule, and I think they're better than I thought they'd be. I think they're gonna kick it in pretty soon.
We're back. It's Salty Sweeney. Join in by dialing 1-800-707-9760.
One of the greatest rock and roll riffs ever. Little Zeppelin for you in the morning. Brian Gann, the boss man, doing like 27 different things at once. And one of those is keeping us on the air this morning and making the show go. We appreciate it. It is the Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney. It is a football Friday. So yes, indeed, we are all about the football as God intended. Coming up in the 8 o'clock hour, each of us will make our big 3 college football picks against the spread because that's the way it should be. I'll just go ahead and let you know I'm picking the Texas teams that I'm interested in. That would be UTSA's game, the Longhorn game, and the Aggies hosting Auburn. I'll just go ahead and tell you what I'm picking there. But we'll also pick 3 NFL games. And then Marc Vandermeer, the voice of the Houston Texans, going to join us in about an hour just after 8 o'clock. And oh, by the way, you get another chance to win $1,000 coming up at 8:20. And Shannon, to clarify, and Brian Gann told me this, and I know for sure. Somebody wins $1,000 every hour. Some people are under the impression like, oh, somebody at the end of the day wins the 1,000, and no. There's a different $1,000 given away every hour on the 20s. So if you don't win it at 7:20, play at 8:20, 9:20, 10. Somebody takes $1,000 home. It may as well be you.
Yeah, that's why the keywords matter.
Woo! It does. So please, win, and we prefer listeners to this show win it.
Yes.
So go, keep listening. It's and we when it is. It's on the 20s every hour. From 6:20 a.m. to 9:20 p.m., somebody every hour is getting $1,000. That is way cool. Coming up, Shannon's salty shakedown. Before that, though, how about some sports birthdays and this day in sports history? 1966. Well, and this is like two things happen 11 years apart, and they're related. And I'll tell you what they are now, starting with this day in 1966. BYU quarterback Virgil Carter set the NCAA single game record with 513 yards passing and 599 yards total offense. Both were records as BYU beat Texas Western 53-33 in Provo, Utah. Now, first of all, Texas Western is now UTEP. So I do like that this is a bad week for UTEP since UTSA plays them. But, all right, so it was this day. It was November 5th, 1966, when BYU's Virgil Carter sets the NCAA passing record. Same day in 1977, 11 years later, and what happens? A BYU quarterback breaks that record. Marc Wilson, who later had a career with the Raiders. Marc Wilson of BYU, with 571 yards passing for the new passing yardage record as BYU beat Utah 38-8 in 1977. Shannon, you may be wondering who now holds the record for most yards passing in the NCAA. So you had Marc Wilson, 571. Before that, Virgil Carter at 513. The record is now 730 yards through the air. It was done by Old Dominion's Taylor Heineke, who's now the Washington football team quarterback. Taylor Heineke threw for 713 yards in Old Dominion's comeback to beat New Hampshire 64-61. Old Dominion was down 23 points in the third quarter of that football game. It's one of the greatest comebacks ever in football history.
Was there no defense at all during that game?
Exactly. You and I could have broken up a couple of those passes. If you just threw every play and it was a track meet down the field, that would be about 730 yards.
I think strength of defense should be accounted for.
True.
In discussing these records.
New Hampshire not exactly known as a hotbed for defense, I don't think. This day in 1978, Oakland Raider head coach John Madden becomes the 13th coach in NFL history to win 100 games. He would later have a little video game named after him. And finally, on this day in 1993, the first NBA game ever played in the Alamo Dome in San Antonio. The San Antonio Spurs beat the Golden State Warriors 91-85 in the Alamo Dome in 1993. Little did we know it would be in that very Alamo Dome that the Spurs would win their first championship. Actually, they won it in Madison Square Garden, but they would play their first championship series in the NBA Finals against the Knicks in 99 in that very Alamo Dome. That's your sports history. How about some sports birthdays? Born on this day in 1952. A lot of people don't like him, Shannon. I love him. I think he's a national treasure. When he's doing color commentary on any game, I put the remote control down. I get a beer and some Doritos, and I enjoy Basketball Hall of Fame center and usually high as a kite, Bill Walton. Bill Walton won the NBA championship with the Portland Trail Blazers in 1977, played for the Celtics, UCLA legend, born in La Mesa, California. You are shaking your head. You don't love Bill Walton like I do?
Can't. Had game day on last weekend. There he is. Flip the channel. No, thank you.
A few years ago.
Turn the volume down, mute it if he's calling a game I'm watching. pass.
A few years ago, Final Four came to San Antonio, and Andy Everett and I interviewed Bill Walton live.
Mhm.
And it was a 15-minute segment, but we took an extra 5 minutes because it was Bill Walton. In 20 minutes,
Right.
we asked him 2 questions. I asked him the first question. He went like 10 minutes. Andy asked him the second question. He went like 10 minutes. We were 5 minutes over, and the segment, two questions in 20 minutes for Bill Walton.
I think
it was heaven.
My final straw was during the NCAA tournament, I think, when the broadcasters were still working from home, and he just kept asking his co-host, have you been to Hawaii?
I love it.
You said the same thing yesterday. No, he hasn't been since then. Stop asking this question.
On Bill Walton, me a resounding yes. Born on this day in 1954, longtime NBA head coach and once a Spur assistant coach, Alvin Gentry, was born in Shelby, North Carolina. And some people in San Antonio will know that Alvin Gentry is the brother-in-law of News 4 San Antonio sports director Don Harris. True story. Born on this day in 1973, baseball legend Johnny Damon, who won the World Series with the Boston Red Sox. He played with a lot of teams. In fact, I think Johnny Damon was part of that Red Sox team that came back from 0-3 in the ALCS to beat the New York Yankees in 7 games. Born on this day in 1984, kicker, one-time Cowboy kicker, Nick Folk, who's still out there kicking in the NFL. Nick Folk was born in Los Angeles, California. Finally, Shannon, ironically, because he's in the news today and may leave his football team today, born on this day in 1992, Odell Beckham Jr., who some say will be released today by the Cleveland Browns. He was born in 1992 in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Happy birthday, Odell Beckham Jr., but most importantly, happy birthday, American treasure, Bill Walton. I don't care what Shannon says about you, Bill. I love you. That's your sports birthdays. That's your sports history. And now, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and both hands on the wheel if you're driving your car, take a deep breath, chant your mantra because it can get intense. Here it is, your salty shakedown.
It's going to be a new look for a lot of NFL teams as we are now on the other side of the NFL trade deadline. One of the bigger trades, of course, being Von Miller of the Denver Broncos, or formerly of the Denver Broncos, to the 7-1 Rams. And it's another huge move that the Rams have made. They've made quite a bit, especially in the last year, most notably sending Jared Goff to the Lions in favor of one Matthew Stafford. He's certainly helped turn that team around. And a lot of these trades, they don't just get these players. They've got to give something away. And in it, they've given away plenty of picks in future drafts. During the 2022 draft, they are currently left with a 3rd round, a 5th round, and 2 7th round, and a couple of compensatory picks that are debatable depending on just based on players that have left that team. And so the Rams GM, Les Snead, he received a gift from his kids after the latest trade to get Von Miller. And it's a not safe for work kind of mug. It's a mug that he definitely needs to keep at home, but he did share a picture of it. It is a mug with his face on it.
Okay.
Black and white. And then across the forehead, it says blank them picks.
Wow.
This is a play off of the Michael Jordan meme that came to be after he was at a charity basketball event with Chris Paul. Chris Paul was like, for every shot you miss, you owe these kids a pair of shoes. And then Michael Jordan went on to not miss any shots. So the meme blank these kids came to be. So this is now a play on that. I like that they're having fun, and I hope for their sake that losing all of these picks does not come back to bite them. But I don't know how old his kids are, but that's kind of a weird gift to get from your kids, right?
I hope they're at least like in college. I hope they're not like in middle school with that meme on the mug on his forehead.
Yeah, then we have other concerns going on. But he seemed to like it. He was smiling in the photo while he was holding the mug of himself with the expletive on it. Pretty funny. It'll be all that more funny if it works in their favor and maybe they find themselves in another Super Bowl. All right, Chris, I like to give the people what they want. And what the people want is an update on the monkey business going on at the University of Texas. But don't shoot the messenger, because I'm here to tell you there's not a lot going on. But yesterday was Thursday, which means we got a press conference from one head coach, Steve Sarkisian, and one person did have the gall to go ahead and ask him about the monkey business going on. And Sark passed on the question, saying it's a personal matter. And he doesn't discuss personal matters of his coaches in public, and that no, it is not a distraction at all. Chris, I understand him saying it's a personal matter. We don't want to discuss it. I understand him just not wanting to discuss it in general, but I think he doesn't want to discuss it because it is a distraction. And so therefore I call BS on the latter part of that answer. What say you?
Well, and first of all, kudos to you. You are such a hardcore Texas Longhorn that you could have just been blinded and say, hey, if Sark says it, then, for you to call BS, because you're right. It's got to be a distraction. Everybody's talking about it. And Sark, you're the guy, and God love you, Sark, and I want you to be successful. And I want the Longhorns to win a national championship, as long as it's not against my USC Trojans again, because that still hurts. But you're the one who hired the guy from Alabama that you worked with, who left his wife and kids for a stripper who has a monkey, and that monkey now apparently attacks trick-or-treaters who accidentally come in your backyard. It's got to be a distraction. Everybody's got to be talking about it. So I agree with you, and kudos to you, as burnt orange is in your blood, to see through the BS and call BS on Sark's answer there.
Small other update to go along with it. Jeff Banks was a player at Washington State, and his name was being thrown around in contention to potentially be the next head coach, because they are searching for one at this moment. But now they know he has a pet monkey, and in Washington, you cannot, quote, have a dangerous wild animal such as a monkey. That is a law in that state. So his name has been etched from the list, it would seem, after this recent incident.
In Washington, weed is legal, but monkeys are not.
Monkeys,
you can smoke all the weeds you want, but you can't have a monkey.
Not allowed. Considered a wild and dangerous animal. All right, moving on. It wasn't the best week in sports for Texas natives, with the Houston Astros not taking it all the way and winning the World Series. But once again, we give our congratulations to the Braves. Today, they will celebrate once more with a parade and concert. It's a two-parter. Parade and concert this afternoon. The parade will take place throughout the town, and they'll go to the baseball stadium, where there will be a concert featuring Ludacris and Big Boy. Now, Chris, tickets to this end of parade / concert were free to the public, which was fantastic. And you could do it through Ticketmaster, which means lots of people spent 2.5 hours online to be in line virtually, get in, have the website crash, have to get back in line, and repeat the process until tickets were eventually gone, because they have sold out. Free, but sold out. So now people are, if they're wanting to go so badly, they're having to buy these tickets from eBay, and they're now going for $1,000.
Wow.
Ludacris, okay. Big Boy, okay. But there are so many artists that come from Atlanta. You're telling me they couldn't get a more full lineup than just Ludacris and Big Boy? I do think it's kind of cool, because it is a very Atlanta thing. Rap scene is huge there. It's great that they're honoring that team. But Chris, shouldn't this event just it was free to begin with? If you don't really want to use your ticket, don't sell it for $1,000. Don't use the Braves' victory for your gain. You should just be happy that they won a World Series for the first time in 26 years. Why are you selling your ticket for $1,000 for something that is free to begin with? That should be illegal. Chris, I don't know if you would have any interest. Houston too. I mean, that's interesting. I don't think they did that when the Astros won in 2017, but Houston's got a huge rap scene as well. I think they should consider it for the next potential World Series win, because I think the Astros will be good for quite some time here.
Well, but I would. And again, you have such a diverse fan base. If Houston or if Atlanta does it again, I'd mix it up. I'd throw one country act in. I mean, keep Big Boy and Ludacris, but I'd put a country act in there, and I'd put a rock and roll act in there. Okay, how about something for everybody? It's like I wouldn't pay 10 cents to see Ludacris and Big Boy. It's just not my thing.
Well, and Ludacris these days I feel like is more of an actor. Yeah. Right. And he's performed at Texas a couple times. He's done like the Longhorn City Limits thing. I don't know how big of a music act he would be considered these days. So I'm a little disappointed in the turnout we've got here for this Atlanta concert to celebrate the Braves win. But nevertheless, congratulations to everyone who is attending and is a Braves fan. Have a wonderful and safe time. There it is, today's Salty Shakedown.
Outstanding Salty Shakedown as always. Shannon, thank you very much. And once again, we said it right after the Braves won the World Series, and you said it there. Congratulations to the Braves and their fans. But I say it with this caveat: if you were pulling for the Braves just because you hate the Houston Astros, I withhold congratulations from you. Speaking of the Astros, while that parade is going on in Atlanta today, Shannon, the Astros are expected to have a press conference today at 3:00 in Houston, where they are expected to extend the contract of one manager, Dusty Baker. I second that emotion. I love Dusty Baker. I think he's so good for that Astros team. I will, if those reports are true, and I think they are, I will be applauding as an Astros fan this afternoon as they extend the contract of Dusty Baker.
Yeah, I think that's huge, not only for the team, but obviously they are going to work as hard as they can to keep Carlos Correa. And I think going ahead and taking care of Dusty Baker, getting that out of the way, because that would be a huge question for a star player. Who's going to be my manager, right? And so knowing that it's going to be Dusty is a huge key to conveying just how much they want to keep him, why he should stay. So great on them, and I'm happy for Dusty. And hopefully next year we'll get him next year.
And the Correa thing, a lot of analysts don't think it's even possible because of what they're already paying. And you paid all this money to Altuve, you paid all this money to Bregman, and I wish we could say, Bregman, we love you, but can we get your money back and give it to Carlos, and you can go like George Springer? Or maybe get some of that Justin Verlander money that we've been paying him for 2 years.
George Springer went away for a lot of money, and where was he this postseason?
Watching on TV like you and me.
So, and I don't know what kind of endorsements Correa's getting around the Houston area, but, he probably makes a good chunk of change from that.
You should get some wristwatch endorsements for pointing at that wrist.
That's right.
Yeah.
Rolly. Get him a Rolex deal.
Coming up are fearless college football and NFL football picks. The voice of the Houston Texans, Marc Vandermeer, in the 8:00 hour as well. Lots and lots coming at you between now and 9:00. Thanks for hanging out with us on the Chris Duel Show. Purple A's. So is that ludicrous, Jordan, coming to San Antonio? Yeah, that's what Luisa is saying as well. And let me see, NFL. So I got to pick Cowboys, of course. Cowboys a 10-point favorite over the Broncos. See, Dolphins a 5.5-point favorite over the Texans. Man, they're both 1-7. I might have to stay away from that one. Packers, Chiefs, Kansas City by 7.5. I'm going to say Kansas City. Well, I'll tell you in a moment. What else is a marquee game? Wow, Browns-Bengals is interesting. All right. I'll be back. Let's see, what can I give you here? I can give you some Mike Taylor for your viewing pleasure. Gonna get some ice for my tea. Back in a sec. Mike Taylor. Thank you, Mike, for sitting in. Foamfoot 420 says, one of my girlfriends is trying to set me up to go on a double date Saturday night. Should I go? That depends on how much information you can get about the guy. I mean, obviously, if he's a good guy, I think you should be given the right to, I mean, now with social media, and granted, everybody puts their best face forward on social media, but you should be able to get his name, check out his Facebook, check out his Instagram, check out his Twitter, go deep. Dean Stone says, only in San Antonio can it be 57 degrees and 91% humidity. See if this guy has any references. Okay. I need, before the bottom of the hour, I need a Marc Vandermeer photo. Like the Paul Alexander photo we just had. Only Marc Vandermeer. Where is he? I got a photo of him here somewhere. There he is. Can I make that work? I think so. Oh, no. I hit the wrong button. Here we come. See now, I need. There you go. Foamfoot 420. John Williams says, run a credit check. Foamfoot 420 says his stats are there, but I'm not really interested in dating right now. Well, that could be your answer. Or if you just want to go out with your friend and it happens to be a double date and you're not really interested in dating, then you don't have any pressure on you, although he might, become obsessive and freaky, as men can do. We're less than a minute out. We got football picks coming. I'm picking UTSA's game, the Longhorns game, and the Aggies game. I'm going to pick the Cowboys, of course. I'm staying away from the Texans game. I feel like I should stay away from it. Both teams are like 1-7, and I just don't have a feel for it. And I'm tempted to pick Texans because I pick with my heart often, and I want the Texans to win, but I think I could get burned. The Texans look like it's like a fire sale.
Duel.
The football weekend is upon us in all of its glory. The first football weekend of November already underway. High school football yesterday. We had some college football yesterday. Not anything huge, but there were some college football games last night. Of course, the big college games are tomorrow. The big NFL games are Sunday and Monday. We had NFL football last night. Sam Ehlinger, in his first snap from scrimmage, played one play for the Indianapolis Colts, a 1-yard run down near the goal line. Didn't get into the end zone. That would have been cool. We're going to make our football picks here, college and pro. It's the Chris Duel Show with Shannon, Salty, Sweeney. Coming up just after 8:30, the voice of the Houston Texans, Marc Vandermeer. Lots going on in the world of the Houston Texans. And, of course, the trade that did not happen by the NFL trade deadline as Deshaun Watson continues to be a Houston Texan. How surprised are you, Shannon, that the Texans did not move Deshaun Watson by the trade deadline?
I can't say I'm super surprised given the situation. It's just really hard to grasp that some organization would be okay with bringing that in, especially with the unknown of won't he even be able to play. And then I think you'd really upset a fan base, especially not having answers.
Yeah, so much to talk about with Marc Vandermeer, and we will get into all of that. But right now, we do this every Friday. We look into the crystal ball. We pick 3 college games against the spread. Then we'll dive into the NFL. The perfect music for Shannon Salty Sweeney there. I think she's heard that tune a few times. Shannon, 3 picks against the spread, starting with college football. You should go first because you have a much better record at this than I do, for God's sake.
I'm pretty proud of myself this season. I'll give myself that. All right. I am going to go with SMU versus Memphis as my first game. I believe in the Mustangs. They have been playing pretty well this season. Memphis going around 500 right now. SMU's favored by 4.5. I'm going to take those points and take SMU at -4.5. I just think Sonny Dykes is on an upward trajectory. Of course, his name is being thrown around for some of those opening positions. So I just believe in the Stangs. They're a team that I rode with a lot last year in taking picks, and they did me well. So I'm gonna go with them this weekend. SMU -4.5 versus Memphis.
You rode with the Mustangs.
Yeah.
Last year. That's kind of poetic. Riding with the ponies.
That's what I get paid to do.
Very, very nice. All right. I like to keep it in Texas.
Right.
So I'm going to be picking the A&M game, the Texas Longhorn game, and the UTSA game. Texas A&M is in it. It's a big one at Kyle Field, and we're going to see what the Aggies can do. The number 14 Texas Aggies host Auburn, who was number 13. They've got identical records, by the way, at 6-2 each, although A&M is 3-2 in the SEC, while Auburn is 3-1 in the SEC. Texas A&M, Shannon, a 4.5-point favorite. And even though the Aggies beat Alabama at Kyle Field, I'm not a believer yet until they can win consistently against these blue blood programs. And Auburn is a team that's always there. To be able to get Auburn and 4.5 points against an Aggie team that seems to disappoint a lot of the time. I'm sorry, James Allen, an Aggie alum and a friend of the show. I'm taking Auburn, and I'm getting 4.5 points. Auburn to win at Kyle Field on Saturday. Shannon.
I like that one. I decided to stay away from it because I think it could really go either way. But I admire your courage and your pick. Last week you had another game like that where you took that Michigan State game. I went ahead and stayed away from that one. But this week, coming off of that win over Michigan State will be playing Purdue. I think they're going to win this one pretty easily. The line is currently Michigan State -3. So I'm going to take those 3 points and Michigan State in this one.
Yeah, Michigan State probably, especially with this college football ranking coming out, I think they're highly motivated to continue to solidify their position. Number 3 right now in the college football rankings. So, they're going to want to win. They're going to want to take care of business and continue to be in that conversation for the college football playoff. I think that's a good pick. UTSA at UTEP. It's a night game on ESPN2. Coach Jeff Traylor, friend of the show. He joins us every Monday at 8:35. He says, don't eat the cheese. UTSA, an 11-point favorite to give up double digits at UTEP. And UTEP 4-0 at home at the Sun Bowl and 6-2 overall. But I got a feeling, Shannon, that you talked about it yesterday, Jeff Traylor on social media referring to the undefeated Roadrunners as the unranked UTSA Roadrunners going on the road at UTEP. I think Traylor has them motivated and angry, and I could pay the price by giving up the 11 points, but I am going to take UTSA -11 at UTEP to win big and make a big statement there. Sunday night, late night, 9:15 kickoff at the Sun Bowl.
Look at you. I mean, one way to get the voters' attention is to have a big win, right? That's some people are like, well, some of their wins, they're not big enough. Okay, well, go beat an in-state rival by double digits, and let's see if the voters start paying attention now. So fantastic pick, sir. My final pick for college football this weekend, week 10, I'm going to take Tennessee. They're only favored by 1 against Kentucky. I just think based on the two, they're the better team. 1 point seems like easy enough. They can get a win. I know we're picking against the spread, not wins and losses, but when you have 1 point, you're basically picking who's going to win. I'm going to take Tennessee over Kentucky.
All right, my final pick. I got to pick the Longhorns game. This is going to be on FS1 tomorrow night at 6:30. So the eyes of Texas and the eyes of the nation will be looking in. It is at Iowa State in Ames, Iowa. Of course, as I've mentioned, Shannon, Iowa State has a Purdy quarterback in Brock Purdy. Iowa State is a 6.5-point favorite over the great Texas Longhorns. I think that is an affront to the Longhorns. I think that is disrespectful after those 3 tough losses. And don't forget, against all 3 of those ranked teams, had there not been the collapse, Texas had a double-digit lead against Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, and Baylor. It's been a tough week with the monkey and the pole assassin, but Sark says it hasn't been a distraction. And who am I to contradict Sark? I think Texas comes out of the funk, gets a statement win over Iowa State. Plus, I get 6.5 points. So even if Iowa State wins by 3 or 5, I still get the win on this pick. Give me Texas plus 6.5 at Iowa State. Shannon Salty Sweeney. Them's our college picks.
All I ask is that Texas, because listen, them being at any lead at any point in the game, I can't. It's not over till it's over. And we've learned this, unfortunately, throughout the last 3 games. So if Iowa State's going to win, can you just put me out of my misery early? Don't make me wait till the fourth quarter collapse. Just don't
even ask for that. Just say, give me the win.
Put me out of my misery.
Give me the win.
And do it early.
Yeah, and by the way, since the boss man, Brian Gann, is listening, I want to pimp 1200 WOAI, his station down the hall. We will have the Longhorn game, as we always do, on the 50,000-watt blowtorch 1200 WOAI. You can hear that across Texas, across 38 states. Why listen to any other radio station when you can listen to the Blowtorch?
And
6:30 kickoff on Saturday night.
To recap, Chris has Auburn plus 4.5 versus Texas A&M, UTSA minus 11 versus UTEP, and Texas plus 6.5 versus Iowa. I've got SMU minus 4.5 versus Memphis, Michigan State minus 3 versus Purdue, and Tennessee minus 1 versus Kentucky. Chris, it is time for week 9 of the NFL.
Yes, and don't forget both the college and NFL picks on social media, on Twitter, at AM 1300 The Zone and at Ticket 760. So you can follow along all weekend long, and then you can mock and humiliate us when and if we're wrong. What if we're not wrong this week? It's possible. It could happen.
We've never been wrong.
There
what
you
are
go.
you even saying?
Yeah. All right. Little NFL action. I love the music. It makes me feel special. Yes. NFL music. I need to just like wear headphones and listen to this music all weekend long, Shannon. I'd have a better life if I did that.
It really would put a pep in your step.
It would. It really would. All right, let's go a little NFL. Who you got in your first NFL game?
Well, I've ridden with him a lot this season. I'm going to continue riding with him. I do not believe in the Manning cast curse. I think Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills will have their way with the Jaguars. They are favored by 14.5, and I ain't taking them.
Wow.
With that 14.5, I'm going with the Bills, sir.
You know, conventional wisdom says double-digit spreads in the NFL are dangerous, but you were fearless as part of the Bills Mafia.
I mean, were favored by 14 over the Dolphins last week. I took them. It worked out.
Yeah.
I figured Jaguars a little bit worse.
If it's working out with you, for you, you got to do it. All right. We've been talking a lot about the Cleveland Browns all week. Odell Beckham Jr., just the dumpster fire that is the Cleveland Browns. They are at Cincinnati, high noon on Sunday. Bengals 5-3, Browns 4-4. Bengals are 2.5-point favorites. And as I mentioned earlier in the show, Shannon, I think there's dissension in that locker room. The majority of the locker room apparently wants Odell Beckham Jr. to come back and be a Brown, which does not bode well for Baker Mayfield, who is not getting along with Odell Beckham Jr. or his father. I just think there's too many problems in Cleveland Brown land, and I think the Bengals are ready to make another statement. They beat Pittsburgh earlier this year. I think it's time for the Bengals to beat the Cleveland Browns. It's in Cincinnati. Cincinnati, a 2.5-point favorite. I will give that up to the Cleveland Browns. I think Joe Burrow and company play well and win big. I will take Cleveland minus 2.5 over, excuse me, I'm sorry. I will take Cincinnati. Minus 2.5 over the Cleveland Browns. Shannon.
All right. I don't think I've touched this team all season. I've tried to stay away from them, but I'm gonna go there now. I'm taking the Texans at plus 5.5 versus the Dolphins this weekend. I think the Dolphins messed up tremendously. Okay. When they had any interest in acquiring Deshaun Watson, they had said to Tua Tagovailoa, we're done. Mm-hmm. We're done. Even though he's still taking the field, just know that we're done. Okay. And we have no faith in you, which means this season's going to be whatever this season is. The trade deadline comes and goes. Nothing happens, but I can't imagine Tua's happy. I can't imagine a lot of that team is happy. And the Texans are getting their quote unquote starter back because it is Tyrod Taylor. I mean, he's there because of the issue with Deshaun Watson, right? But I think he's going to be an improvement over Davis Mills. I don't know that they'll win, but I think that they will cover the 5.5. So Texans 5.5 versus the Dolphins.
Very, very nice. Both teams 1-7. Texans 0-4 on the road. Dolphins 0-3 at home. Something's got to give.
I know.
You're going to have to tell Vandermeer here in a few minutes you picked the Texans. Maybe he'll be proud. Maybe he'll be soothed by that. All right. It's one of the marquee games of the week now, especially with Aaron Rodgers out. It's the 3:25 afternoon game on Fox at Arrowhead Stadium in Kansas City. Chiefs a 7.5-point favorite over the Jordan Love-led Green Bay Packers. Shannon, I have a feeling Kansas City has been questioned lately. They've been floundering up and down. This is in their house. 7.5 is a lot of points for a Kansas City Chief team that has disappointed a lot this year. I just think, though, Jordan Love is going to fall on his face. I think I talked about dissension among the Cleveland Browns. I think Green Bay can't be a happy football squad this week after what Aaron Rodgers has done to them. I'm picking Kansas City. I'm giving up the 7.5. Give me KC minus 7.5 to beat the Green Bay Packers by double digits at Arrowhead, 325 on Sunday.
Gosh, if you took the Chiefs prior to Monday's game when they were favored by 1,
yeah,
I mean, you got to be feeling amazing about it right now.
Yes.
Especially with that 7.5. All right, my final pick of the NFL Week 9. I'm going to go to the Rams. We talked about them in the Salty Shakedown. They just acquired Von Miller. They are playing the Tennessee Titans, who I think on an average week, I may not take this because 7 does seem like a lot in the NFL at times, especially when you're talking about 2 top contending teams. But the Titans just lost Derrick Henry. We don't know what that offense he's basically their offensive identity, let's be honest. And now he is no longer available for that squad. So I'm going to take the Rams here at -7 versus the Titans.
And programming note, we're going to give you the $1,000 cue coming up here in just a second. But let me get my Dallas Cowboys pick out of the way, my third pick. Cowboys a 10-point favorite at home against the Broncos on Sunday at high noon. Dak will be back. I think the Cowboys offense is going to score 40. I'm giving up the 10 points. I'm very, very happy. Cowboys are going to win this game 42-17 or 42-20. Give me the Cowboys -10 against the Denver Broncos. Shannon, that would be our NFL picks.
Brave of you. What'd you say? 42?
42-17 Cowboys.
42-17, all right.
Yeah. So, all right, since we are a minute late, but hey, you can win $1,000. You won't be mad at us if you win. Somebody wins $1,000 every hour. Somebody's going to win it right now. I hope it's you. Here it is, the Grand in Your Hand cash contest.
Your chance to win $1,000. Text the nationwide keyword $dollar to 200-200. You'll get a confirmation text and info. Standard data and message rates apply in this nationwide contest. That's $dollar to 200-200.
Dollar is the keyword. Shannon, you want to recap our picks here before we dive back into NFL news, which there could be some breaking news coming down about Odell Beckham Jr. right now. We'll look into that. But for people wanting a recap, what were our NFL picks?
NFL picks this week. Chris has the Bengals -2.5 versus the Browns. Chiefs -7.5 versus the Jordan Love Packers. And Cowboys -10 versus the Broncos. I've got the Bills -4.5 versus Jaguars. Texans +5.5 versus the Dolphins. And Rams -7 versus the Titans.
All right. I am now, if somebody's telling us, and I'm looking for an official confirmation from
confirmation.
I'm not seeing it either. Santos, either you're a psychic. We got Santos on the live video feed telling us that Odell Beckham Jr. has been released by the Browns. When we see something like that, we then go to social media. We go to Twitter. We go to major websites, major sports websites for confirmation, and we don't have that yet. Now, the word is that Odell Beckham Jr. will be released today, but we don't have official confirmation of that from a legitimate news source yet. So once we have that, I see that, and I'm a trusting guy, Shannon. So when I see one of our listeners/viewers emphatically say something has happened, my first thought is, okay, I trust you. I believe you, but I gotta go check, Ian Rappaport. I got to check Adam Schefter. I got to check, people who are big time reporters on this stuff. And nobody is running with that story yet coming up on 8:24 in the morning on a Friday morning.
Correct. Yeah. We're still waiting. I mean, it is believed to be something that'll take place, but nothing official quite yet. And it'll be interesting to see just how quickly he gets picked up. Right. Yes.
And again, we talked about it. And I was listening earlier this morning on national radio. USC alum and wide receiver Keyshawn Johnson said that 3 teams that should have interest in Odell Beckham Jr. would be the Chiefs, which would be crazy. That would be an embarrassment of riches. But he made the point, if Odell Beckham Jr., who wants the ball, went to the Chiefs, then you've got to ask Tyreek Hill, and Travis Kelce not to get all those passes from Patrick Mahomes.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, that would, I mean, I guess winning changes everything, right? So if they were winning on a regular basis, he may not care about how many touchdowns he has or doesn't have or catches or attempts. But you go to the Chiefs, you're not all of a sudden their number one guy.
Right. And he seems to want to be a number one guy. Then he said the Rams would be another one. And, Rams just want to get a Super Bowl right now. Give us Von Miller. We got Aaron Donald. We got Matthew Stafford. Give us another target on offense.
Yep.
So I wouldn't put it past the Rams and Sean McVay, and they're willing to spend money and give up whatever. They don't care. But as you and I discussed earlier, and I got a feeling this is, if the Las Vegas Raiders aren't salivating after the horrible Henry Ruggs III story this week, and now he's gone perhaps forever from the NFL. They don't have a deep threat, a vertical threat right now. Odell Beckham Jr. could be that. And you think, Shannon, just from a fit standpoint, Odell Beckham Jr., with all of his sizzle and razzle dazzle in Vegas, I mean, Odell Beckham Jr.'s got to be loving that too.
I'm just like being reminded of the pizza video where he was in bed eating pizza, and I think he may have been.
Ooh, that's right.
Taking part in extracurriculars,
There
and
could
there were
have
some
been
females there, and
yeah.
I'm just like, if that doesn't scream Vegas, I may be worried about him being there full time.
Yeah, that's a very, very good point. All right, coming up, Shannon Salty Sweeney picked the Houston Texans over the Miami Dolphins this coming Sunday. Let's talk about that game. Let's talk about all things Houston Texans coming up. The voice of the Houston Texans, Marc Vandermeer, going to join us. We'll talk Texans, we'll talk NFL and more. We are all over the football this morning, as we should be. It's a football Friday. She's Shannon Salty Sweeney, the boss man Brian Gann making the show go. Thanks for hanging out with us till 9 on the Chris Duel Show. Brian, did you see that music request from okay, good. Thanks. Thank you.
I think Odell Beckham is going to the Saints.
Ooh, that's another good one. Yeah, because they've lost. Was it Michael Thomas? They lost a starter. Okay. Yeah. Ooh, you're right. Baton Rouge. You're absolutely right. I didn't even think of the Saints. That's a great call. All right, let me get a Marc Vandermeer photo going. So you can see his mug when we talk to him.
You used the Vandermeer music as the rejoin music, right?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, we tend to blow out the voice guy and just go with it, and then.
I'm assuming it's the right thing. It's Jan Hammer with Miami Vice. They put it in there for me.
Okay, thank you. And since Miami Vice is instrumental, I mean, if you want to do the voice rejoin, that's okay too. Okay. Oh yeah, I think they elevate what we do. It's a tremendous, yeah. And I mean, isn't that the voice of Fox? I mean, that guy's got an amazing voice. Yeah, he's I think it just elevates us. I'm working on the Marc Vandermeer photo, and my phone is not completely cooperating. Here we go. Foamfoot 420 breaking news is going on the blind date. The double date tonight. But only in caps to have fun. There you go. And Foamfoot 420, you never know. When you least expect it and when you're not looking for something, that's when it might show up. You two might dig each other when there's no pressure. Let me see here. Okay, I did that. Did I do that? I think I did that. There it is. There's my Marc Vandermeer photo. All right, so now I do this. And here is our Marc Vandermeer photo. So we'll put him in the middle. I'll get over here, and Shannon will be on the right side of the screen where you see Cardboard Breggy. Woo! All right. I'll be back. Vandermeer next. Mike Taylor sitting in for just a moment as I freshen my beverage. Woo! Thank you, Mike Taylor, for sitting in. Let's see here. So we've got the boss man, Brian Gann, is calling Marc Vandermeer as we speak. Let's see, that is.
Marc's ready. He's driving, just so you know. I mean, I don't know you need to mention it, but just be aware of that.
Okay, thanks for letting me know.
He changed initially he was on speaker and it was a little off, so he changed it to this. So I don't know if he's handheld or what, but just be aware.
Okay, thank you.
In case he goes away or something.
Okay.
But it should be fine.
Here we come with Marc Vandermeer, the voice of the Houston Texans. Coming up. Welcome back. It is the Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney. Miami Vice, the music. Some of us remember the 80s. Shannon, some of you were able to bypass the 80s, at least entertainment-wise. There it is. There's that Miami Vice riff. The Houston Texans headed to Miami against the Miami Dolphins, where Shannon Salty Sweeney has picked the Texans this week over the Dolphins. Let's talk Houston Texans football. He is the voice of the Houston Texans. He will have the call at high noon on Sunday as the Texans will be in Miami. Marc Vandermeer, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing great, Chris. I'm looking forward to going back. You know, I used to work there, so it's fun for me to go back to Miami for so many reasons. And the Texans haven't been there too often. This is only the fourth ever visit for them to play the Dolphins there. So this is a good one in the sense that you get Taylor back. Both teams are 1-7. It's a weight class you might be able to handle a lot better. And I hate to put things that way, but that's where we are after this losing streak that they're aching to stop.
Absolutely. It'd be so nice to just get a win under your belt this Sunday at noon. And Marc, before we dive into Texans versus Dolphins, just want to get your thoughts on last week's game as the Texans took on the Los Angeles Rams. Now, the good news, Texans outscored the Rams 22-0 in the fourth quarter, if you want to say glass half full. But of course, the game was kind of out of hand after three quarters. From your perspective, you know, some people, a cynic will say, hey, that was garbage time. But do you think maybe the Texans benefited from being so successful score-wise in the fourth quarter against the Rams?
It was garbage time. However, the weird thing about that game, Chris and Shannon, was that they had the ball with 2 minutes to go. No timeouts now. If somehow they get a freaky touchdown, you know, it's possible, and you score even with, let's say, 20 seconds left, there you are, and you have to get the two-point conversion, of course. But there you are, lining up for an onside kick, down one score after being down 38-0. I was so hoping at that point, I was just so hoping they could force the issue that way, because that would have been a freaky kind of thing. However, the afternoon itself was a total and complete loss because 38-0, you couldn't stop the run, and the Rams are not known for their running attack. Obviously, they were good through the air as well. Texans offense, 4 consecutive 3-and-outs to begin the second half. Unacceptable, really. And I like that they scored late, even though it was the garbage time or whatever you want to call it, because at least they got some rhythm. Now they go back to Taylor, and they're out of this juggernaut part of the schedule. You know, you play the Rams, the Cardinals, the Bills, the Colts. They played 4 of the top defenses, the top 4 defenses in the league, as a matter of fact. Then you look at DVOA and other stuff. All these teams are really good that they've been facing, and they're not equipped to deal with that just yet. So now they play the Dolphins, and let's see if they can get a win and get off the schneid, as they say.
Well, you mentioned the Rams getting that run game going and the Texans not able to stop it, but the Texans not able to get their run game started at all last week. Rex with the most run yards with 21 on 4 carries. You think they'll fare better this weekend against the Dolphins? And who out of the group that's left should be that featured guy at the running back?
That's a great question because I'm not so sure if they know. They want to go with the hot hand, but who can even get hot in that backfield? I want to see more Scotty Phillips, see some carries from him. I think with Taylor under center, you're going to run the ball better because he can run it. So now you have those RPOs, you have the spread plays where he's a threat to carry the football, and the Dolphins team has to be ready for that. So they better prepare for it. And I was listening to my old station down there, WQAM, and they were saying Tyrod Taylor is a Dolphin killer. That's exactly what they called him. And I thought, wow, that's interesting because he was with the Bills and had some success against the Miami Dolphins. So we'll see how this goes. But I'm looking forward to it. I think the ground game is going to be better with Taylor under center alone. So we'll see how they fare.
And as you mentioned, as we talk with the voice of the Houston Texans, Marc Vandermeer, with Tyrod Taylor coming back this week, Marc, as we've watched a big body of work from the rookie Davis Mills and now Tyrod Taylor coming back, I mean, moving forward beyond this year, does Taylor have an opportunity here to solidify himself as the quarterback of the future for the Texans? I mean, what is the state of quarterback in the rest of this season and looking ahead to next season for the Texans?
It's way too early to tell. I would not take that off the table, that possibility, because he did look good for a game and a half. The question is, and it always has been with him, can he stay healthy? And what's the future for Davis Mills? I like that they go. Some people are saying, well, why don't you stick with Mills here? Because you're not going anywhere and you need to really evaluate him. And I do agree that Mills needs to play. He just didn't play enough college football. Now he's playing in the NFL. Now you're playing some teams that you should fare better against offensively. And maybe you can get a better picture of what Davis Mills can do for you. However, I think you have to be competitive. You have to win some games. I'm not, let's get the highest possible draft choice guy. I'm just not, because those things often don't work out. How often do they actually work out where you get the number 1 pick and it turns out to be a franchise changer? Not very often. So I'm not about that. I want to be competitive, and I do think they need to evaluate Mills more, but they'll have a look maybe later on this season. Look, if Taylor starts winning a ton of games here, well, great. If he doesn't, no, you go back to Mills and have another look at Mills, see how that goes. So I think it's too early to tell, Chris. I think Mills is a possibility for next year. Taylor might be. Maybe they draft a guy. Maybe there's a veteran we're not thinking of. It's so funny with the quarterback position. You look at Mike White. Everybody's celebrating after last week's performance. And last night, he gets off to a decent start, but he gets hurt. You just never know how these things are going to play out and who might emerge as a good quarterback in this league. There's so many different stories, so many different paths to get there.
Marc, there's a guy we talked about at the beginning of the season who was a real up-and-comer for that Texans defense. Of course, Charles Omenihu, who lots of folks in Central Texas love to continue to cheer for as he did come out of the University of Texas. But he is part of the NFL trade deadline. Just before things ended, he was sent to the 49ers. What did the Texans get in return? And why was this the right move?
Yeah, they didn't get a whole lot back. What is it, like a 6 in a couple of years or something? It's not a ton, but I don't think he was going to command a ton. The numbers aren't great this year. The ability and potential is great, and I think Charles could be a real good player, but maybe he just wasn't a fit here. And these things get very complex, and players have feelings, and organizations have feelings, and there's chemistry in the locker room, whatever the case may be. And I'm not saying it's any one of these things, but it was a number of things probably that led to him being traded. And he gets to go to the 49ers and play under a defensive coordinator and former Texan. And that's probably a good situation for him in that particular attack. And for the Texans, look, they get a little pick out of it, and they march on to see what they can do in the draft and building for the future. So it was a little bit of it wasn't a shocker to me because he was a healthy scratch for a couple of games. So clearly there were things that weren't happening on the practice field or whatever that they felt like they needed to see. and both parties separate. This happens a lot in professional sports. We'll see how it works out for both parties.
He's the voice of the Houston Texans, Marc Vandermeer. He'll have the call on Sunday as the Texans are in Miami to take on the Dolphins. Marc, a big NFL story today, and it is developing. Apparently, the Cleveland Browns are working on exit terms for Odell Beckham Jr., who is clearly not happy in Cleveland. You know, we're hearing teams like the Raiders might be interested after the horrible situation with Henry Ruggs III this week. You know, maybe the Rams, maybe the Chiefs. Is Odell Beckham Jr. somebody the Texans would be interested in, or given his drama, you know, and the new culture that's being built with the Texans, is that a guy they'd probably stay away from?
Look, I can't speak for management, but my feeling on this is 99.999% no. Houston on both sides, because he wants to win right away, and I would assume, and they're not going to win right away to the level that he would want, and he'll have options, and hopefully he finds a place that works out for him. When Cleveland made that, this is just my personal opinion here, when Cleveland made that deal, I had no clue why they were doing it. I know he's a terrific player, but they had other things they could have done with the assets they traded, and they had something good going on, something good chemistry-wise. And guess what happened? It didn't work out chemistry-wise, among other things, and injuries too, because he has difficulty staying healthy. I think the Raiders might be a good situation for him, but look, he's got to get along with his quarterback, get along with his team. I don't know the guy at all. I think he's tremendous. I mean, he's done things on a football field that, just make your jaw drop. But when we had DeAndre Hopkins here, and the talk was who's better, I always felt DeAndre Hopkins was better. He's available. He'll play with any quarterback and make that quarterback look great. And I just had this feeling that he was a superior receiver, even though OBJ was getting all this pump. OBJ was in that Super Bowl commercial for the 100th anniversary, the one at the wedding reception.
Yeah.
Doing there, because he had one great catch. Put Hopkins in that commercial. Put Andre Johnson in that commercial. Of course, this is a Texan saying. Well, skewed this way, but that's how I felt.
Marc, another huge story this week, of course, being Aaron Rodgers being diagnosed with COVID-19. He will be out this week and even potentially next week, missing 2 games for the Packers. Do you think there are going to be any implications from this, given that it was kind of secret? There was this thought that maybe he was vaccinated. Turns out he's not. Was he operating under the certain guidelines that he needed to as an unvaccinated player? Do you think there'll be anything that gets sent across the board of the NFL that'll come from this?
I read somewhere likely fines, no suspension. So we'll see how that goes. I really think that it's sad. He's immunized. He said, I guess homeopathic stuff, whatever. Look, I don't want to get into a vax debate here, but I got the vaccine because I knew that I'd have difficulty, a great deal of difficulty doing my job if I didn't get vaccinated. I wouldn't be able to be around the players and the coaches, and I really wanted to be. And, people have their feelings and their opinions and whatever the case may be, and he handled it the way he saw fit. But the question is, how compliant were they or were they not with the protocols? Because these things are taken very seriously in the building. I can only speak for the Texans, and I'm telling you, they take the protocols extremely seriously. So we'll see what shakes out of this after the investigation is completely done.
Finally, Marc, you're also our go-to source for all things Houston Astros because you are on the ground in Houston. And, of course, as Astros fans, we're still licking our wounds from that Game 6 loss, which ended the World Series earlier in the week. I understand that later today there's a press conference. They're expected to extend the contract of Dusty Baker, which I think is a great move by the Astros. But all eyes on Carlos Correa and his contract expected to garner a ton of money in free agency. From what you're hearing in Houston, is there any chance that Carlos Correa remains a Houston Astro next year?
The feeling around media, fans, and I guess some of the media that's very well informed is that he's gone, right? Now, my personal take, this is just me. If you're going to make $300 million or whatever the end result amount is going to be, I hate to say what's another $10 million because it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
If your heart is in Houston, and I'm not saying it is, for him. But if it was, why not play where you want to play? After a while, it's the Gordon Gekko line or Bud Fox to Gordon Gekko. How many yachts can you water? Make yourself happy. Life is short. You're going to be set for life regardless. So why not go ahead and make yourself happy, play where you want? If it's Detroit, great. If it's the Yankees, and I totally get wanting to play for the Yankees, even though I hate them like poison, Yankees, right? So I hope he just does what he wants and doesn't feel pressured by agents. Listen, it's $10 million more here. You got to go for it. No, you don't. Go where you want to go. And I know the owners have all the money and the equity in the franchise, whatever. Look, you'll have enough. Do what's right for you. That's what my advice would be, not that he asked me, to Carlos Correa.
Man, I hope he's listening somewhere. And I'm with you on the Yankees. If Correa becomes a New York Yankee in pinstripes, it will just absolutely break my heart. Marc Vandermeer will have the call at high noon on Sunday as the Texans are in Miami to take on the Dolphins. Of course, we'll have that for you pregame at 11:30 on AM 1300 The Zone out of Austin, Ticket 760 out of San Antonio. Marc's a great follow on Twitter as well, at Texans Voice. Go follow him there. Marc, have a great trip back to your old stomping ground in Miami. We'll be listening on Sunday.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Shannon. Take care. Have a great weekend.
All right, you too, sir. Marc Vandermeer, the voice of the Houston Texans. Shannon, we got about a minute left. Are you ready for a big football weekend? Do you feel good about the Longhorns?
I didn't feel fantastic going into that Baylor game, and I think that feeling turned out to be exactly what I thought it was going to be. And I got to say, I don't feel fantastic about this weekend.
I feel good.
Don't feel
then
great.
Again, you're more in tune with the Longhorns than I am, obviously. So I take your gut feeling seriously. Shannon, outstanding week as always. Enjoy your football weekend. We'll do this bright and early on Monday.
Thank you, sir. I hope we both come back victorious.
Yes. At least the Cowboys, for crying out loud. Let's get closer.
At the very least. That season's still alive.
Yes. Our thanks to the boss man, Brian Gann, the last couple of mornings making the show go. Paul Alexander earlier in the show. Always love his takes on football. And just now, Marc Vandermeer of the Houston Texans. Have yourself a great football weekend. We'll see you at 6 o'clock on Monday morning. Adios, amigos. Woo! Woo! All right, y'all. Thanks for being with us. Have yourself a great weekend. Foam Foot 420. Have a great double date, blind date. Jason Paniagua, Axel J. Miller, Luisa Alanis, Beth Settle. Anybody else who might be in here? Warren Wheeler. I didn't say hi to you yet this morning. Pablo Perez. If I see you, I say hello. The least I can do. We appreciate your taking some time out of your morning to hang out with us, see what the heck we're talking about. All right. Until Monday. Unless for some reason, well, actually, I'll be doing Spurs tonight. After the Spurs game, it's an early Spurs game at Orlando. Tip off at 6:10 p.m. So when would Spurs React be? 6, 7, 8:30 ends. Bill would go till about 8:50. About 8:50, 8:45 tonight. 8:45-ish, give or take. We'll be on 1200 WOAI's Facebook page. I also push it out to here on Ticket 760 and AM 1300 The Zone's Facebook page and the YouTube. We push it out. So we'll talk a little Spurs and sports after the game tonight. Michael Bartlett, the Mr. Rogers of Sports Talk Radio. It's always a beautiful day in his neighborhood. He'll join us. So be safe. Hello, Frank Ramirez. Go Spurs, go. Be safe. Have a great weekend. And hopefully all of our and your sports teams win this weekend. See you later. Thanks for hanging out with us. Bye-bye.